Hello, good to see you too. How's it going? Happy Tuesday. I don't know. I'm in a pretty good mood today. I guess I woke up on the right side of the bed, but it's a day of love. I guess love is in the air. Top story, whether you care about it or not, you should care about it. But the top story, Taylor Swift engaged to Travis Kelce. Let me tell you why you care. Number one thing is, like about an hour before the show starts every day, I usually check in on Google Trends or the what's trending on Twitter or what's trending on Instagram or what's trending on some social media feed just to make sure like I didn't miss anything. And today was perfect. Today, the top trending terms in Dallas-Fort Worth in the last 4 hours before the James Show started. Number one was Taylor Swift. Number two was Travis Kelce. So if you don't care, you need to ask yourself, why do so many other people care? What is so damn important about this? You need to ask yourself, what are you missing? Because in this, okay, number one, we can all admit this doesn't affect your life one bit. Doesn't affect my life one bit. I'm still going to get the same electric bill I was going to get otherwise. It doesn't affect the price of groceries. Doesn't affect, my kid's educational career. Doesn't affect my professional career. Doesn't affect my dog. Doesn't affect Miss Parker. Doesn't affect. Hi, Miss Parker. But let me tell you why you should care. Taylor Swift cannot be the Taylor Swift she is now much longer. This is the natural evolution of the pop star. And she is taking the same fork in the road so many other girl bosses take, because whether you're a billionaire, a millionaire, or just a regular old middle class, well-intentioned lady, you can go out and you can have a successful career. But at some point, there's going to be a fork in the road. Are you going to just continue being a pop star for the rest of your life? Or are you going to fulfill your real purpose? And that is fall in love, find a soulmate, get married, have kids, spend time raising them, make sure they're okay. And when they get to be adults and they have kids, maybe you can help out a little bit with them. Your focus should become your family. Now, we see how this turns out in the real world. Some people make a couple of albums or even a few albums, and then they just get married and disappear. They just go away and then never to be seen again. And that's okay. It's almost admirable. Wow, look, they went out, they made a whole bunch of money, and they quit while they were ahead, and now they're doing the family thing. And they have a bunch of money, a big pile of money to do it with. Isn't that great? And then some of them can't let it go. I think exhibit A for that one would be Madonna. So you're Taylor Swift, you're in your mid-30s. Just like any girl boss in her mid-30s, you've had a good career. But what does that mean? You want to spend the rest of your life alone? When do you want to find someone? Do you want to have a family? Do you want to at least have a serious conversation about a family? Or do you want to just hop from boyfriend to boyfriend like Madonna did? And at the end of your life, you're going to be in hospice, in a bed. Who's going to stand around you? Anybody? Because for these people who don't have a family, who don't get married and have kids and have some sort of life partner, I mean, who do you expect is going to be there? Who you even living your life for? Just yourself? Well, that's not very noble. And you're capable of much more than that, whether you're Taylor Swift or just a regular girl boss who has a great career. So I'm really interested in this because this could be Taylor Swift taking the other fork in the road. Maybe she does want to fall in love and get married and start a family. Maybe she does want to evolve into something else. But if she does choose door number two, the trad wife route. I love that term, trad wife. You mean just wife, just normal? Yes, it's now trad, traditional. If she does take that road, she's going to have a lot of Swifties watching her. She's going to have a lot of influence over people that you don't talk to. I don't talk to. They don't listen to me. They don't listen to WBAP. They don't care what James says on the James Show. I'm an old man. I'm like middle-aged and have a little bit of gray hair coming in on the sides. I'm a dork. I'm like their dad's friend. Can't even dance well. Has no hit songs. Doesn't date anyone in the NFL. But what happens with all these millions of fans when they watch her get married, if they watch her have kids? Because is she going to also evolve politically? There seems to be an interesting pattern. Many people have noticed, you included, of people when they're young and they're single and they're just getting started out, they have a tendency to be more lefty. And as they grow up and they get a mortgage and they get a career and they pay taxes and they get married and they have kids, you start to see that evolution to the right. Let's talk about that next on the James Show. I have a couple of sound bites and a couple of samples I want to run by you that may give you a little optimism here. If you're annoyed with the headlines and the amount of attention this is going to be, don't be. I'm going to make you feel a lot better about it next on the James Show. 800 288 9227. 800 288 9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. What's up, fellow Texans? It's the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Shouldn't we be playing Taylor Swift for bumper music during, like, the Taylor Swift segments? No, you need to calm down. See what I did there? I did, like, a pun of one of her songs. You need to calm. That was terrible. Top story of the day, Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce married. Now, this may not amount to anything big, but you may look back in this moment 5-10 years from now and be like, boy, this was a huge fork in the road. This is a big turning point, because many people in their life do the classic evolution, politically speaking, where you go from left to right over the course of, your 20s and 30s and 40s. And we saw that recently. I think one of the great recent examples of this is a comedian named Whitney Cummings. Are you familiar with Whitney Cummings? Do you know her? Is she someone that's on your radar at all? Because I'm a fan. Absolutely, I'm a fan. But she has always been a complete lefty, and that's okay. Her comedy wasn't extremely political, but she did like a lot of feminist stuff where it was the same old, men are stupid. Aren't men stupid? Oh my God, they're stupid. And I can laugh at that because men are stupid, but it was so one-sided. I mean, it got kind of tiresome, but overall, hilarious. And she does this one thing that I really respect in a female comedian, that if you're hot, you downplay your appearance. You don't show cleavage or wear a short skirt or anything. She dressed really normal. She didn't play up her appearance. In fact, she played down her appearance. You just have her hair down, usually back in a ponytail. And so she didn't even use that as a crutch, her appearance. And we all got an awakening on the CNN New Year's Eve broadcast because they brought in some comedians to roast 2024. And Whitney Cummings came out and did a bunch of jokes that sounded like they could have been written by the ghost of Rush Limbaugh. And it was hilarious. And so then earlier this year, she did an interview on the Bill Maher show where she explained her political conversion. And I think Taylor Swift is following this template. And she may very well have a similar story. But first, let me take you back. We're going to go back all the way to, well, I guess New Year's Eve. We don't need a time machine for that. Well, I guess we do technically need a time machine for that. But this is from the roast. And check this out. This woman who had been doing lefty jokes her entire career just comes out swinging.
Documentaries finally realized the only way to make money is to just make them about cheerleaders. The Dallas Cowboys cheerleader doc showed the girls being treated horribly, underpaid, crying. I thought I'd open a video on Hunter Biden's laptop. 2024 election fried our brains. The Democrats couldn't hold a primary because they were too busy holding a body upright. Are we still rolling? Am I off?
Go for it.
It was amazing that the pro-choice party didn't give their voters one when it came to the presidential candidate. Kamala was forced on us so hard you'd think she was patented by Pfizer.
Dang.
Or Moderna, whichever one's... Oh, God. Andy just gave me a very scary look.
No!
We all agree the government totally knows what drones are and aren't telling us. The drones are still up there, and we have no idea what's behind them. No idea. I mean, they're still up in the sky, so I guess we can rule out that they were made by Boeing. The point is, I think we all agree on a lot of things. And since I only have a minute left live on Establishment Media, why don't we just say a bunch of things that we know that they'll never cover? Okay, ready, go. Trump Jr. didn't have any silverware in his house. No one thought that was weird? Are we still rolling? Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia put money into Disney, so just know there won't be any girl characters in the next Cars movie. Are we still rolling? This is wild. Okay, why have so many presidents' chefs died? Weird.
Yeah, okay, so we were all just dumbfounded. People who watch such things and keep up with comedy and comedians and whatnot. Where did this come from? I'm telling you, that sounds the exact opposite of what she had been her entire career. And listen, I think we might see something similar with Taylor Swift. One thing that's kind of annoying about Taylor Swift is how political she has gotten in the last few years, and how, okay, it's overwhelmingly left. All right, you put Lena Dunham in your videos. We got it. You're a lefty. You like Democrats. Republicans are stupid. But when Whitney explains what made her switch and drift toward conservative, sounds a lot like what's going on, or what could go on in the next steps after Taylor and Travis are just simply engaged. Is this in her future?
It's been fascinating because I've been on this sort of journey through motherhood where, I've always been a very liberal person, maybe even a libtard. But once you have a kid, you start having thoughts that have been characterized as conservative. As soon as I had a kid, I was like, I need a gun. now. Not for myself, because I've got coyotes in my yard. I've got coyotes everywhere. And before I had a kid, I was like, they coexist with us. Coyotes were here first. Like, I'm in the coyotes' home. Now I'm like, let's make hats out of them. Let's make hats. Let's make coyote boots, coyote earrings out of their eyeballs. Like, it's just.
So, is this your story? We're in a metropolitan area of 8 million people, half of which are ladies, some of which are even listening to this show right now. Is this what happened to you? Is this why you're listening to WBAP? What converted you? What made you go from being the feminist girl boss, I don't need any man in college in your 20s, to the lady that's listening to WBAP at 2:20 in the afternoon on a Tuesday? Because I hear a lot of these stories, and I don't know if I just hear them because I'm me and I'm a talk show host and people reach out to me because they want to tell me these stories. Hey, I love your show. This is how I got turned on to it. Or do you have a similar story to this? Because I love observing the evolutionary process that happens to these young ladies. Here's a viral video I had played last year when we had talked about this.
I must be pretty weak-willed because all it took was falling in love with a man, and now I'm like, not really. I mean, I'm a feminist, but like, kind of. I don't really need my maiden name. I don't really need it. I like your last name better anyway. Like, I'll just take that. I know he can do his own laundry. I know that he can clean the house, but I want to do it for him. I want to cook all his meals. I want to make sure he's getting all his whole grains, all his vegetables. I want to make sure he's getting all that protein. He has not asked any of this of me. It just kind of naturally kicks in. Like, these instincts just kind of come out of like, oh, now I have to take care of you when you're sick. Oops, I made you breakfast and it fits all of your dietary requirements. My bad. I think I got possessed by a housewife. Is that what happens?
So wouldn't that be cool if that's what happens here? This is a very influential person. I know she doesn't influence you one whit, but how big would that be? Not just for Taylor Swift or not just for a couple of voters out there, but I mean, the country of America, if she converts hundreds of thousands, millions maybe of voters, what a huge impact this could have. Here's another viral video, another conversion.
I saw a girl on here say that when you have a good man, you're going to be in that kitchen and you're going to like it. And I could not agree more, because I was such a like, no, he can make his own food. No, I'm not going to get up at 3-4 in the morning and like make lunches. Like, I'm not going to do that. And you know, now that I have a good man, now that I'm being taken care of, yes, sir, expeditiously. Oh, your grandma used to make carne guisada and homemade tortillas, and that was like your favorite thing? Cool, I'm gonna learn to make carne guisada and homemade tortillas. It's that simple. I hate dishes. I absolutely hate the dishes. Now, you need me to wash the dishes? I'll do you one better. I'll deep clean the sink afterwards too.
Oh, ladies, how did marriage change your politics? Do you think it's going to change Taylor? Do you think it's going to change Travis? I don't know where he stands politically. I think he kind of leans left, but I don't know. It'd be hard to be too full-throated about it if you're standing next to Taylor Swift at all times. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. What converted you, and do you think Taylor Swift will be changed by marriage? That's coming up on the James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker, showing a little optimism here. Top story of the day is Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce getting engaged. I didn't know we were allowed to report on the pumpkin spice latte just yet. Just quick point of order here for the white people listening. It's August 26th, and I remember distinctly at our last white people meeting that we're not supposed to even acknowledge pumpkin spice exists until Labor Day. So some of y'all are breaking the rules. We talked about this. It's one of our favorite things to do every year. It throws the other people for a loop when we act like pumpkin spice is the most important thing from Labor Day to January 1st, and then the rest of the year we pretend like it doesn't exist. That's a solid bit, and you're ruining it. You got to keep them on their toes. But back to the Taylor-Travis situation. I know you think, well, I don't care. And look, it doesn't directly affect you, but it may indirectly affect you pretty hard coming up because these people have a lot of sway. And if she's going to continue being a political animal, which once you start being a political animal, they're not going to stop asking you those questions. We have a real chance here for millions of young ladies, and I guess a few men, to be influenced in the right direction this time. You know, one of the painful truths about so many of these artists is that they really are influential. I know they don't influence you, but they do influence millions. And this might actually work in your favor. Now, you see this happen with other people. It's interesting in the rap world how many endorsements Trump got last year from guys, and not all rappers. It was mostly guys who had been in the business for 10, 20 years. We're talking about like 50 Cent, of course, Kanye, Lil Wayne, Ice Cube. There was a whole flood of the rap world that came out to be pro-Trump. But it was the older set. And if you don't think that has any sort of influence, look how it worked out. If you got a much higher proportion of that vote than anyone had in a long time with an R next to their name. And so Taylor Swift may be going through the same evolution. Now, I talk about how marriage changes women, and it does, but I think it's probably more so having the children. So if she turns around and has kids real quick, prepare to notice some changes. I got an email here from Libby who says politics changed her marriage, as in ended it. She had no idea how being a conservative in the 80s would ultimately end my marriage 13 years later. Oh my goodness. I know several of those stories of people whose political opinions ruin their marriage. You're not the only one. I hear that a lot. But let's not imagine that. Let's imagine Taylor Swift doing the natural evolution that so many other people do. And she gets married and has a kid. And once you have a kid, for the first time in my life, I don't know about you, but for the first time in my life, when I had a kid, my job wasn't my top priority. My career, I should say, wasn't my top priority. It instantly became my second priority. Wow, that's a bold statement. So Taylor Swift has the most successful music career on planet Earth. Is that all about to take backseat to a baby? Let's see. Let's see how she changes. Because when you have a kid, that's huge. It's really hard to be pro-family and hold on to some of those liberal values. Number one, you have to make it past abortion. If she's going to get pregnant, is she going to keep it full term? Well, that's going to disappoint some people who are hoping. Oh, there's some people out there, some pro-abortion ghouls, some just absolute demons out there who are hoping that she gets pregnant and aborts it and is public with it and is such a shining example of how this is a critical right for women. It's also hard to be pro-family and be liberal because it also requires being straight for the most part. I mean, I guess you could adopt, but, not quite the same thing as biological mom and dad having a kid. It also might change your opinion on some of the materials that are in your kid's library at school. It's easy to be all libertine about, sexual obscenities in elementary school libraries when you don't have any kids, when it's not going to be your kids that are being traumatized. It also might change your mind on gun control. I played the clip from Whitney Cummings earlier where she immediately, one of the first things that converted her when she had kids was getting a gun.
It's been fascinating because I've been on this sort of journey through motherhood where, I've always been a very liberal person, maybe even a libtard. But once you have a kid, you start like having thoughts that have been characterized as conservative. Yes. As soon as I had a kid, I was like, I need a gun now. Not for myself, because I've got coyotes in my yard. Right. I've got coyotes everywhere. And before I had a kid, I was like, they coexist with us. Coyotes were here first. Like, I'm in the coyotes' home. Now I'm like, let's make hats out of them. Let's make hats. Let's make coyote boots, coyote earrings out of their eyeballs. Like, it's just...
Yeah, and that's just one of many things. Once you have kids, that has to necessarily affect your opinion on defund the police. Do you want your kids running around the streets that have defunded police, or do you want a strong police presence? Do you want law enforcement that's actually effective and catches criminals and puts them behind bars? And, we can't just keep them with no bail. And yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. It'll change your stance on immigration, on illegal immigration at least. It'll probably soften your stance on women in the workplace. Yes, women, they deserve equal pay for equal work and whatnot, but having a career should not be a woman's most important priority, especially once she has kids. It's totally acceptable and normal and not at all a patriarchal oppression to put motherhood above your career. It also might change their stance on some of these huge advantages that women get when it comes to divorce and alimony and child support and custody hearings, because these are all incentives that rip a family apart. But we're going to get a couple of clues real quick. Is she going to have a baby soon? And is she going to keep her last name? Is she going to hyphenate her last name? I don't know the answers to these questions, but watch this. You may not be interested in this now, but this may be one of the greatest things that happens to the movement in years. All right, coming up next on The James Show, North Texas has the hottest real estate market in the country. 5 of the top 10. Does that mean housing is going to be more affordable for you? We'll talk about that next on The James Show. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Well, hey there. Welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. And I wanted to talk about the real estate market here in our backyard in North Texas. We got some fantastic news about it. And we have the hottest real estate market in the country. Just spoiler alert, it's McKinney, if you haven't already seen the article and wherever you look. But we have 5 of the top 10. Now, my next guest helps me with some of these issues when it comes to home building and supplies and sometimes even tariff talk. Lance Thorelkill's back on. Now, I know him from All Metals Fabricating up in Allen, isn't it? And then I see you also have this other company where you started doing, I've seen this online, the 3D printed concrete houses. Oh, I didn't know you were doing that. When did that start? Yeah, I know where that's at. So I've seen that. It's the one that has the big arm and it just does one layer of the floor plan at a time, just like a 3D printer. But man, that's cool. I didn't know you were doing that. What does that mean? What's a gantry? Yeah, I know what you're talking about now. Okay. All right, we're getting way off topic here. My guest, Lance Thorelkill. No, that's all right. I just I chase rabbits sometimes. I'm glad you went with me. So the hottest market, and there's different ways you could measure this, but it's kind of hard to argue. McKinney, Texas. Not a surprise, is it, Lance? So when you look around at the housing landscape, would you say housing is now more affordable or less affordable than it was 5, 10 years ago? So how much has the increase in the price to build a new house played into this? You're a guy that supplies some inputs there. What do you see on your side? Right, Lance Thorelkill. What do we? I think one of the biggest players here that we can't do a whole lot about is the mortgage rate. It seems that has a big effect on people's buying power. Well, just for the further numbers, if you got a $320,000 house in January of 2021, you could have paid as low as a 2.65% interest rate. Right now, it's around 6.75%. That's a difference of $600 a month. So I think that's huge. I mean, that's the same as yeah, as getting a raise pretty much. All right, Lance. Well, it says the 3D printed concrete guy, right? How expensive is that compared to the price of a normal home, a 3D printed house? Well, you. Whoa. So it's cheaper? All right, Lance. Let's talk about this on a future episode. I'm out of time here, but I want to talk to you about the 3D printed houses. That's pretty cool stuff. Lance Thrill Kill. You can find him all Meadows Fabrication and Printed Technologies. Thank you, sir. Coming up next on the James Show. Donald Trump's talking about going into Chicago because D.C. has been such a success. Chicago's not a big fan. Where do you stand? 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Get ready to enjoy people whining about Donald Trump sending in the National Guard to more metropolitan areas. The thing you need to enjoy about this conversation is that the D.C. deployment of the National Guard has been a success, and the arguments against it, if they had a legit argument, would go something like this. Yes, Donald Trump had mentioned wanting to deploy the National Guard into other major cities like Chicago or whatnot, but we shouldn't do that because he's done it in D.C., and here's the list of negative consequences to the citizens of D.C. because of it. The problem is, here's the list. Nothing. What are the negative consequences? Name one. I guess the cost, but that cost is borne out by the rest of us because they're federal troops, so they're kind of getting a freebie favor from the rest of us. You're welcome, D.C. So they're getting security they're not even having to pay for. It sounds like nothing but an advantage over here. You know what else is kind of nice? Going 13 days without having a murder. That's the first time in God knows how many years they've gone almost 2 weeks in a row now without having a murder. And if you want to look at the D.C. crime statistics, go back a couple years before they started fudging the numbers. In 2023, D.C. had 274 homicides in 2023. That was the highest number of homicides since 1997. So the most in, what, more than 20 years? 26 years? Yikes. Homicides were up 36% in 2023. So just remember that when they're like, homicides were down 30% from last year. Oh, yeah. We know what fudge numbers look like. But if you want to take that murder rate, that homicide rate in D.C., and sort of prorate it for just the 13 days that Donald Trump has had the D.C. lock that place down, how many lives have been saved? Well, we can statistically, when you do the math, 9.75. So 10 lives have been saved because of this. 10 fewer homicides than if Trump hadn't have done this are what the likely result would have been. Not for me fudging the numbers, just simple old math. You know how to do proportions. You know how fractions work. If not, I do. So just trust me or ask your phone. So what would happen if he went into Chicago and did that? What would happen if he went into Detroit and Baltimore and New Orleans and Cleveland and all these other places? Saving lives. Here's another question that MSNBC, they haven't asked this all day. I've been waiting for them to ask this. How many black lives have been saved? How many of those homicide victims would have been black? Black lives matter. Where are you at on this one? Do these lives matter? The ones that he's saving in D.C.? Because it sounds like he's saving the lives of people who predominantly would have been black victims of homicide. Shouldn't that be celebrated? Shouldn't that be something that's replicated? Shouldn't Chicago be asking for something similar to that? Shouldn't D.C. be a model of something to embrace if you care so much about the lives of my black neighbors? No, but you're silent on this. Oh, you're critical of this. Interesting. So let's go look at the reaction to Chicago here, because this really puts them in a tough spot. Mayor Johnson in Chicago was saying, we don't need the National Guard. We need social programs. That's right. We don't need anyone actually stopping criminals and arresting them and making my citizens safer. We just need more money from other people to spend on our programs. We just need money. Just give us money.
Look, the National Guard is not going to put food on the table. The National Guard is not going to, reduce unemployment. The National Guard is not going to give people access to health care. This president, of course, has demonstrated that he is inimical to the interests of working people. But here in Chicago, a pro-worker city, a city that said, yes, we can, a city that said, keep hope alive, right? This is the city where resistance came alive. Dr. King said, if we can do it right in Chicago.
Bro, you can't put food on the table either if you're dead. You can't get a job and improve the unemployment situation if you're dead. And so there's no real good answer for this. Why don't you want the National Guard to come into Chicago? It looks like it's saving lives. No, it's not going to solve unemployment. No, it's not going to put food on the table. No, it's not going to solve some of these other issues. but at least fewer people will be dead. He was on Morning Joe this morning. You're going to hear Morning Joe try and beat an answer out of Mayor Johnson on why. Wouldn't it make Chicago safer? Why don't you want this?
I'm curious, and this does come down to an ideological difference between people. Do you believe that the streets of Chicago would be safer if there were more uniformed police officers on the streets of Chicago?
Of course.
I believe the city of Chicago and cities across America would be safer if we actually had, affordable housing. Look,
okay,
I'm
but that's not the question I asked. My question is, and I just need a yes or a no.
Get him, Joe.
Do you believe the streets of Chicago would be safer if you got all of those other extraordinary programs put back into place, which do have a history of being successful, if that's complemented by having 5,000 more cops on the streets of Chicago?
I don't believe that we should narrow it down to just police officers, Joe, is what I'm saying. That is an antiquated approach. I'm saying we've invested in detectives.
Mr. Mayor, are you hearing what I'm saying? I'm agreeing with you that all of these other social programs are extraordinarily important. I just need a yes or a no, and then this will be the last time I ask. If you get all of those other social programs that 800 million that New York City does, Los Angeles, other people do with great success, would an additional 5,000 cops on the streets in Chicago help complement those programs to make Chicago safer?
Look, we are working hard to make sure that our police department is fully supported. I don't believe that just simply putting out an arbitrary number.
He's not gonna, don't worry. He's not going to answer. He just got asked 3 times, dodged every time. Because you know what the answer is. The answer is yes. I know it. You know it. Everybody knows it. Believe me. Coming up next on The James Show, we're going to talk to James Varney from Real Clear Politics on Donald Trump's new executive order to punish flag burners. Should burning the flag, desecrating the flag, be illegal? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, what's up? Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Sparker. Joining me now, the other James Varney from Real Clear Politics. Welcome back, James. Other James, yeah. Lesser James the less. I want to start with this Trump executive order targeting flag burning. Now, let me go ahead and put the qualifier out there because someone's going to email me or at me or something. Yeah, I don't think in a perfect world, in a vacuum, that burning the flag should be illegal. However, we live in a world where we have hate crimes now that all of us have to live by. And so if we're going to have speech be policed, then it should be policed from both sides and not just enforced against me, but also against other forms of hate speech. And so I kind of agree with the idea of punishing these people just as sort of the thumb in the nose to prove the point that hate speech laws and hate crime laws are wrong. Right. It's Well, the legal justification that he's thrown out in the executive order is along the lines of inciting a riot. And so, like, if you're in your own backyard and you burn a flag, that wouldn't be illegal. But if you're at a protest and there's people who are chucking rocks at a police and you burn a flag, somehow in that context, it could be illegal. Now, that sounds kind of vague, but is it wrong? Right? Yes. Well, there's a couple. There's a simple explanation for that, and there's a complex explanation for that. The simple, shallow one is a new law or rule like this would disproportionately punish people that the people who support this perceive as political opponents. This would disproportionately have a negative impact on lefties and people who hate Trump and people who hate conservatives and people who hate America. And so, generally speaking, that's a good thing. Now, I agree. The one thing I like about flag burning being legal is that we get to know who all the idiots are. Like whoever's burning a flag out in the street, who is the easily led, useful idiot automaton that can't think for himself and has been convinced that the greatest country ever is the worst country ever. It shows us who the idiots are, the hateful, bigoted, anti-American punks are. That's the one thing I like about it. Sure. And well, then there's the complex reason that some people would be for this. And I'm not sure if I buy the idea that this is inciting a riot and this is something that is, generally speaking, a danger to the public at large. But it'll be interesting to see if they can find some sort of lane to where, if someone was lighting an American flag and that did incite a riot, okay, I have a hard time arguing against that. All right, James Varney, what you got going on at Real Clear Investigations these days? All right, good stuff. James Varney, thank you very much for your time and your expertise. Let's talk soon. All right, I'm going to turn the same questions to you. How do you feel about Donald Trump's executive orders to punish flag burners? Is this a violation of the freedom of speech? Is this a necessary act against people who are inciting violence or inciting a riot? Do people who burn flags deserve to be charged with a crime? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. We'll dig a little more in this wound next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Donald Trump signs an executive order looking into punishing flag burners. Not all flag burning in all situations, but in some situations, flag burning could be seen as a crime and you could be punished for it. Now, my libertarian sensibilities, if this happened in a vacuum, be like, absolutely not. Hate speech is protected speech, and the freedom of speech is specifically for speech that we disagree with. However, we live in a world where hate speech is illegal, and I have to have my speech governed. Why don't my critics have to have their speech governed? If we're going to have hate speech laws, then let's have them. Let's have it go both ways. Let's just not punish Team Red for hate speech laws. Let's use them against Team Blue as well. And if, one of the great ways to get rid of an unjust law is to enforce it vigorously. And so, fine, y'all want to play the hate speech game? I think that's what he's doing here. I don't even think he really thinks hate speech should be illegal. I think he's using this as an example. Oh, you think hate speech laws are good? Well, what about when it's used against you? And that might change some minds. 800-288-9227. One of the interesting coincidences in this is the case of Shiloh Hendricks. Do you remember the name Shiloh Hendricks? If not, that's okay. It happened about the same time the Carmelo Anthony situation flared up back in April. And what happened here is that, Carmelo raised all kinds of money, almost $1 million or so, over the incident that happened at the track meet. Well, Shiloh Hendricks was sort of an echo of that, where she had a viral video of her using a racial slur, pretty much destroy her life. She went on Give Sin Go, and she raised something like $800,000. Her crime was she's in Rochester, Minnesota. She's at a park. There's a bunch of Somali immigrants there. And a guy turns on the camera of his phone and goes up to her and says, "Did you call that little kid the N-word?" And she says, "Oh, you mean the one that was stealing stuff out of my child's diaper bag?" "Yes." And he says, "Well, do you have the balls to say it again?" And she said, "Sure." And she said the N-word a couple times. And from that, she is now, today, it was announced by the Rochester Attorney's Office that Shiloh Hendricks is going to have charges thrown on at her for the April video incident. So here you go. Not that I agree with what she did. What she did is it's ugly. It's wrong. Should it be illegal? Absolutely not. But if we're going to live in a world where you get to use hate speech laws to crusade against your political opponents, let's use it against you. 800-288-9227. This is Hero in Grafford. You're on WBAP.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Just, trying to stay on topic as best as I could, but verbatim in the linguistics of it, when you were saying earlier that America's the dream country, right? Is that the way you worded it earlier?
The dream country? I don't remember. I think America's the best country in the history of ever. Yes.
Right. Well, we're all entitled to our views and opinions. It's just with everything that's going on, from the flag burning all the way down to Russian and Ukraine and all. What I don't get is, it's like I have a loving woman that I'm dating now. She has 2 kids, and she tries to go to work every single day, right, and renew her TPS status, but they're not renewing her TPS status. And here's a woman trying to fight for her life. Her life must feel like a burning plane falling out of the sky. I mean, this is what's important to me, but it's like our country's so far, their heads are so far up Russia's booty and Ukraine's booty, we're not focusing on what needs to be focused on. It's like, oh, Texas bans trans people. I mean, who cares?
I have no idea where you're at on flag burning.
Well, that's, I was trying to stay on topic as best as I could. I mean, I don't blame them for burning the flags, whoever's burning them, because this country's turning to crap. We have immigrants coming to this country, taking our pension, taking our Social Security and stuff. By the time I turn 65 and 45 now, what's going to be left for me? And then I got a woman that's trying to go to work every day and get TPS documents reinstated, but can't get them because our president's too busy worrying about Russia and Ukraine. It's like, how about worrying about the people that are here in this country that want to do good.
All right. Well, solid points. So glad you got to make it on the show. Thank you very much, Hero. This is Will in Cleburne. You're on WBAP. Your thoughts on flag burning?
I think that the flag is a national symbol, and if we're going to protect eagle eggs and you can't disturb them and you can't go kill an eagle because that's not free speech, that's a crime, I think it's equally protected.
Yeah, I get what you're saying there. I don't know if I like that example because the bald eagle protection isn't about it being an American symbol as much as it is being an endangered animal. And I think if you own an eagle and he has eggs or she has eggs, you can destroy your own eagle eggs. I just don't think you can kill someone else's eagle eggs. I don't know, but I get your point, and that's interesting. Should we hold some symbols of America sacrosanct in the fact that they can't be defiled in public? And again, that sounds like a hate speech law, and I don't like going down that route, but we're already in a world where we have hate speech laws. So why not these? That's a much tougher argument. So I like your point, Will. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, coming up next, your least favorite guest on the James Show is coming on. Oh, thank you. Round of applause for Will. Is Kate Lincoln Goldfinch, the immigration attorney, is going to be on. And when she comes on, she's the one that disagrees with me and loves illegal immigrants. At all stories and times and points. Do you have any questions for her? We're going to open up the phones, and if you would like to talk to her or have a question for her or you want to run something by her, she's been kind of popular when she's on lately. Call in now. I'll put you through and you can have a chat with her. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Bleeding Heart immigration attorney Kate Lincoln Goldfinch on the James Show next. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. Well, hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. My next guest, immigration attorney Kate Lincoln Goldfinch from Lincoln Goldfinch Law. Welcome back to the James Show, Kate. I get, we don't always agree on the subject at hand, but you do a real good job of getting feedback from the listeners. After shows, if I have you on, I usually have at least an email or two, if not 20, talking about our segments. So you're always appreciated on the show, even if we don't agree. Well, let's get into it. Your favorite illegal immigrant, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, got released from custody, put back in custody. Now there's another hold on his deportation. He couldn't go to El Salvador. He got threatened to go to Uganda. What's your take on this whole situation as it stands today? So could he still end up in Uganda? Because I think that would be a fun twist to the story. Instead of going back to his hometown or his home country, he ended up going to the other side of the planet. But he's a criminal. He's domestic abuser, and he has these human trafficking charges hanging over his head. I mean, if he's found guilty in a court of law, would you still oppose him being sent to a prison somewhere? Why Uganda? That just seems really random. It just Uganda of all places. Have we sent criminals there before? Is that something that you've seen? All right, this is Kate Lincoln Goldfinch, immigration attorney. I appreciate you spending some time on the James Show again. Yeah, I'll get some emails off of that one. Thank you, Kate. Yeah, well, look, my concern about the Uganda thing is that it's just so random. It's like, well, Uganda, I mean, do we really trust them? Do we know what's going to happen to him if he goes to a Uganda prison? I think we'd have a lot more accountability if we sent him somewhere nice like, I don't know, North Korea or... All right. Coming up next on the James Show, we have more fallout from the redistricting maps. You're like, well, what could be left on this? You know, that battle, not quite over yet. I'll explain next on the James Show. 800-288-9227. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Well, hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Seeing what trouble can we get into today? In the Texas State Legislature, they're continuing with the second special session. I guess the first one wasn't special enough, but they came back. They actually have a quorum now. And I'm still left with like a big dumb question mark above my head. I feel really confused as a guy who has to observe this for now the last 23 years, this whole political process through the lens of talk radio. Why did they come back? The guys that ran, the Democrat legislators that ran, why did they come back? I thought what y'all were running from, you were going to stay gone as long as it takes because these maps were racist. They were an injustice. They were a threat to democracy. I don't know, literally Hitler. But y'all are back? Oh, well, what happened to that? Oh, it really wasn't so important that you had to stay away this whole time. Interesting. Well, for the 12 days or whatever that they were gone, I heard a bunch of Republicans running their mouth too, saying, well, they're going to be held accountable. These people need to be arrested immediately. They need to lose their seats. They need to be charged with a crime. Any handcuffs flying? No punishment. They're not losing their seats. They're not losing their committee appointments. They're not losing their seniority. They're not even losing their parking spot. So now that whole kabuki theater garbage is over, the maps passed the House. Maps passed the Senate. It hadn't been signed by the governor yet, but on its way. Last I checked, we're just waiting for the mere formality of the governor's signature. But we're not done with the second session. The governor has also decided that he's going to expand the agenda for the state's second special legislative session. And the two things he's adding, one of them is to restructure law enforcement funding. I got to tell you, it's my job to digest these complex issues and present them to you in a way that's easily understandable and interesting. I can't do that with this one. This crap's so boring sometimes. And I'm not sure why it's a big deal, but okay, the ability for police departments to transfer funds between them and other third-party police contractors, I got nothing for you. But this other thing that was added to the agenda, this other issue for the second special legislative session, this is interesting. I like this one. He wants to end same-day voter registration. Okay, love that. Same-day voter registration is such a farce. So you have to imagine if you wanted to steal an election. I know stealing an election is wrong. You would never do it. It's against your morals, your ethics, and you wouldn't support anyone who did. Okay, fine. Just stay with me. Play devil's advocate here. What if you did want to steal an election? And I don't mean steal an election that day. Steal an election in a way that it would still pass audits. Steal an election in a way that it could be taken to the courts and not be overturned. Steal an election in a way that would fit. Well, I think one of the easiest, obvious ways to do it, and especially in the current situation that we're in, is stuffing the ballot box. See, you could just get the machines to change the total after they count it up, or you could fudge the number in there. But if someone takes you to court and they can't produce all the ballots, they came up with this big number, well, then your rigging is not going to stick. It runs the risk of being thrown out. You run the risk of being exposed. So what you need is the actual amount of ballots. Now, they can be fraudulent, but are they going to pass muster in the court of law? Well, one or two easy ways to sort of facilitate this is you need to have a bunch of extra ballots floating around. You know, early voting, absentee voting, mail-in voting. This all helps because you and your activists can get a hold of a stack of unused ballots. You can go harvest some of those ballots. And then on election day, you can fill them out. If you're going to lose, you can fill them out real quick. But how does it pass muster? You can't just put any name in there. That's not a registered voter. You have to have registered voters. So you could find people who are registered voters, but if they already vote the same day, then that's not going to survive the audit process. That's something that can be discovered after the fact. Well, these must be fraudulent ballots. Why? They're duplicates. So if you want to avoid the duplicates but have registered voters, there's now only two ways you can really go about that. Number one, find people who are registered voters but dead So you know they're not going to vote on election day, and you can make those ballots in advance. The other way is on election day, you can conjure up the ballots. You can find registered voters that didn't vote, get their information, put it on a ballot, vote on their behalf. And so all you got to do is go through and look at the registered voters. Now, here is where it gets even bigger. If you have same day registration and you find out a bunch of people didn't come in to vote yet, then you can fill out even the voter registration on their behalf and create a fraudulent ballot on their behalf. And these are people who didn't vote, who didn't even register to vote, but their vote will be counted just as if it did, and it will look the same, and it will go through the courts, and it will pass an audit, and you can steal an election and get away with it. But one of the important tools you need, same-day voter registration. And so why is there one political party that pushes for all of these terrible flaws to voting security? And why is it one party that's against all of these fraud openings in the election process? And I don't have to answer that for you. You're not a baby. You know how that works. And you know what the answer is. Some people are cheating. And who are the cheaters? The people complaining about ending the loopholes. Coming up next, Texas Democratic Chairman Kendall Scudder is coming back on the James Show. And we're going to ask him, how's the Democrat Party in Texas doing in the light of this new redistricting situation? How much more can his party take? Find out next on the James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. My next guest, his name is Kendall Scudder. He is the Texas Democrat Party chairman. Welcome back to the James Show, sir. You know, we've heard a lot from Republicans on this show on their thoughts on the legislative session, the special session, the Democrats who flee the state, and then I guess more importantly, the issue at hand, the redistricting maps. We hadn't heard a lot from the Democrats on this show, so I'm glad you're back on the show again. It's been too long. First, let's start with the biggest story. What's your response to the new congressional maps in Texas? So what's going to happen after this? It's passed the House, it's passed the Senate. I don't think the governor's signed it yet, but will they be in place for the midterm elections? Are you expecting like an injunction to stop this before next November? Yeah, I hear you on that. I'm sure y'all already have the legal paperwork drawn up. Hey, it's racist. Well, yeah, well, you get the secret word sounder whenever you say that. Well, how can they be racist if Latino men now vote for Team Red more than Team Blue? Aren't we enfranchising those guys? Just the color of their skin? We're talking with Kendall Scudder, the chairman for the Texas Democrat Party. I see some Texas Democrats have a Labor Day Fest event this weekend. Let me give you a little bit of promotion for that. Frontiers of Flight Museum coming up on Monday, September 1st. And, you know, whether or not you agree with my political leanings, it's been something that's stressed on this show. If you don't like the way that this country is being governed, just get involved. Right. And you know, I know there's about 20, maybe 30% of the people listening disagree with me and probably agree with you. You know what? Even if you disagree with me, I'd rather you get involved and get it wrong than just be a complacent guy surfing your couch and getting it wrong. Wow. I can't agree with class warfare, sir. There's some great billionaires. Well, listen. There's some billionaires that are right wingers and some billionaires that are left wingers. They can't both be wrong. All right. So why do I get the impression Beto wants to run for something again? So where does the Democrat Party stand on the THC ban? I've been quite amused to see how this divides the Republican electorate. Now the elected representatives seem to be overwhelmingly for banning THC, but not so much among the voters. Where do the Democrats stand on that? What is your response to people who point out that you're not doing so well among younger voters? Like you're still doing good, but not as good as you used to. Yeah, they do. All right, Kendall Scudder, you're the Texas Democrat chairman. Let me ask you a completely unfair question. Who do you think is the front runner for your presidential candidate, nationally speaking, in 2028? Kinda. Well, look, if you want to get attention for even from someone like me and just make me think about it really hard, why don't you go for a guy that's an anti-Trump, a guy that he's a billionaire, he's a self-made businessman and got his finger in all kinds of projects, including TV and whatnot. But just happens to be from the opposite political spectrum. I'm talking about a Mark Cuban. I wonder why y'all don't focus more on that guy. Have y'all talked to him about running for something big? All right. It was a fun chat. This is Kendall Scudder from Texas Democrats. He's the chairman over there. Thank you very much for your time. You can find more of his info, txdemocrats.org. Appreciate it, sir. All right. Coming up next, I don't know if you heard this story. There's been a couple of pedestrians killed by bad drivers. One of them was a local comedian. He was a friend of mine. I'll tell you my side of the story coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Not real happy to tell you about this next story. And it's not going to be a big deal to you, and it's not going to affect your life one whit. But this is kind of tough here. A friend of mine, a comedian, was killed in a hit-and-run accident Friday night. I mean, technically, it was early in the morning on Saturday at 2:15. I know that whole crew. His name's Henry Crews. I know the people he was walking with on Elm Street. I know where he was before that. I know where he was before that on Friday. It's a pretty small clique. There's a downtown Dallas comedy scene. Just a handful of venues, and they have open mics during the week and actually paying gigs on the weekends. Now, I've made a deal with myself in that the weekdays are for work, the weekends are for family. So I've been doing this for a couple of years now, going to open mics. I use a fake name, so don't even bother trying to find me or come see me. It's not a big deal. It's just something I do for fun because it's something I've always wanted to do. And since I've started doing it, I've noticed when people find out I do comedy or stand-up comedy or you're going to an open mic later? Well, wow. You know what they say? I've always wanted to do that. Oh, I've always wanted to try that. Well, then get off your ass and do it. You know, the comedy scene, especially for these open micers, like, because I'll go on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and no one's there but other comics. There's not even really much of a crowd there just on accident. But you know who these people are? You know who you meet? You know the kind of person Henry Crews was? The comedy scene is full of people who are chasing their dreams. And almost none of them expect to get to the top, to be like a Shane Gillis or a Chris Rock or a Dane Cook or George Carlin or something huge. They would like to make a couple bucks doing something that they love, doing something that they respect. The comedy scene is full of people who just want to make you laugh. And it's different than other arts. You know, the music scene, they just want to be cool. I mean, some of them, the jokey ones like a Tenacious D or Bowling for Soup, you know, they'd like to see you smile too. But some of them just think they're the coolest people in the room and they're all depressed or they hate their dad or whatever. No, comedy scene, these people just want to make you laugh. Henry Crews just wanted to make you laugh. And he had the bravery to get up and do it for the last 3 years where so many other people don't have the guts to do it. The comedy scene is full of people who are actually acting on those dreams that you just talk about. It takes a level of bravery out there. There's a level of risk because it's not just your time and money to do it. You know what you're risking? You're risking criticism. You're risking failure because that's why you don't do it. That's why so many other people don't do it. You don't want to get up there and write some jokes and then present them to a group of people because why? You might look like an idiot. Someone might tell you you suck. And that's a scary prospect. Every person in the comedy scene is overcoming that in front of your face every day. It's just a guy who wanted to make you laugh. It's just a guy who was chasing his dream, not expecting riches, not like, oh, I deserve this or I'm going to be a millionaire. Just having some fun, trying to make the world happier. That's all. He didn't do anything wrong to deserve this. This wasn't a drug overdose. This wasn't some gang-related violence. This was the guy who spent his day trying to make people laugh. And when he was walking back home, he crossed the street in front of, we don't even know. Was it a drunk driver? It was a hit and run. We still don't even know who did it. And the guy who killed him may never be found or held accountable. So it's just a total tragedy. But a nice reminder that, you know what? In 100 years, no one will ever know any of us were ever here. We're only sharing this planet with each other for a little bit of time. And the world is now worse that there's one less person like Henry Crews in it. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, football fans, can we be done with preseason now? Can we go ahead and start the real football? That's right. It's almost here. Football fans, college football starts this week. Pros start next week. And if you're already going to be watching, add a little bit more fun to your football experience with the Prize Picks app. James Parker here for Prize Pick. Arch Manning's on there. You can put him on your lineup. All it takes is a lineup of 2 to 6 players. You go look at one of their stat projections, and you pick more or less. That's it. And if you get your picks right, you can win up to 2,000 times your money. It's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app, legal in more than 40 states, yes, including Texas. They're trying to ban all kinds of things around here. Prize Picks, there's no gray area, 100% legal. It's a good time. I used it last year. I made a little bit of money, had a little bit of fun, and I want you to try it out yourself. So download the Prize Picks app today, and if you use promo code WBAP, you get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code WBAP to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. I was just talking about a personal acquaintance of mine. You know, am I friends with these people? I never see them outside of a comedy event. They never see me outside of a comedy event. But when you've been doing this for, I don't know, I've been hanging out in that scene for about like a year and a half solid, and just kind of sporadically before that. It's weird how much this kind of stuff hits you. You know, you had a guy that I was expecting to see him on Thursday, actually. Sometimes I see him on Mondays. He's not going to be with us, Henry Crews. A guy who would be ecstatic to know that the Dallas Morning News headlines included the word comedian. Because this is what it says in the headline. It says, Dallas comedian identified as man killed in hit and run Saturday near downtown. Hey, it's official. You're a comedian. The world, you died a comedian. That's all you wanted to be. That's all most of us want to be. Because I'll tell you what the dream is of the people that are doing these open mic nights, that are doing comedy, especially around here locally. To just be able to be called a comedian, to do it and make money. My God, the first step in considering yourself a successful comedian is if this could be your only job. You don't have to be a millionaire. You don't have to be having a Netflix special or a series on Hulu. Just if you could do this for a living, that is the dream. And it's so inspiring to see people chasing it. And you see people chasing it not because their life is great and they have everything together, and because, you know, I've got all my ducks in a row and my career's on point and my family's not chaotic and all orderly, and now I have time to go pursue this dream. No, these are people pursuing it. Some people are poor. Some people are still living with their parents. Some people are just couch surfing and don't really have a place. Some people had to skip lunch today because they're waiting for their direct deposit to hit tomorrow. And there's people who are in all kinds of chaotic situations, and they take time out of their day to write jokes for you. They take time for no recompense whatsoever to go try and make sure some other people have a good time, have a laugh, enjoy their evening. So one good thing that I like to see when something like this happens is how the crew is kind of rallied. And one of our elder statesmen, this guy named Noah Shark Robertson, is going to be hosting an event in his honor this Saturday. Now, it's something that he does every Saturday. It's Shark's Comedy Club in Frankie's downtown. But this one's going to be dedicated to Henry, and a lot of our friends, our other acquaintances in the scene are going to have some thoughts to share. I bet you some people are going to cry. But if you want to be a part of that, that's happening Saturday. You probably don't. I understand. Just why are you so timid? Why don't you do this? And it doesn't have to be comedy. I had to badger Miss Parker for years because she wanted to be an artist when she grows up, and she went to art school. She went to the Magnet School in New Orleans and then did art in college and has a degree, and she can paint good and she can draw good and sketch and sculpt and wood burning and all kinds of crap that I can't do worth a darn. I look like a left-handed second grader when I paint. And when she got a job that's kind of art related, being a graphic artist, designing billboards and commercials and whatnot, she kind of dropped the whole painting thing. And you kind of have to badger. This is what you really want to do. Why aren't you pursuing this? And it's the same answer that comes when people say, oh, I'd like to do comedy. I've always wanted to do that. I know what you're really worried about. You're really worried about failure. You know you'll enjoy it. You know you'll enjoy painting. You know you'll enjoy doing stand-up comedy. I don't know. What are some other hobbies that people want to pursue? Music, that's a big one. You want to be a singer? You want to play guitar in a band? You want to be a drummer in a band? You want to be in a play? You want to be in a musical? You want to build sets for the Dallas Opera? What is your dream? Why aren't you following it? I think you're just scared of failure. So let me rephrase this for you. If you're worried If you don't go paint, if you don't go chase your dream because you're worried about failing, you've already failed. If you don't go paint because you don't want to put in all this time and effort and have it put in a gallery and have people reject your art and not buy it and tell you it sucks, then you're a failed painter. But if you don't do it, you're already failed. If you don't go try, just do some open mics, take a couple of workshops, take a class, call Dean Lewis, take his class up at the Improv. And if you go out there and you try and then you fail, you'll still feel a lot better about yourself than if you sat on your couch. Because if you don't get up and try, you've already failed at your dreams. And your dreams are not going to come to your couch and tap you on the leg and say, hey, come on, let's go. Your dream's not on your couch. Your dream isn't in your house. Your dream is out there, and you need to go chase it. You need to do what Henry Cruz was doing. He wasn't out at 2 a.m. because he was getting drunk and partying and trying to have a one-night stand and just living in a hedonistic lifestyle. He was honing his craft. He was chasing his dream at 2 a.m. on Friday. What were you doing? If you don't chase it, you're going to regret it. There's going to be a time in your life when your health won't let you. I don't know if you're going to be sitting in a hospice bed or you're going to be in a wheelchair or you're going to be past the point of being able to do anything like this. You're going to remember this conversation. You're going to be like, I should have listened to Parker. He was right. So don't wait anymore. Get off your butt. Chase your dream. Go be a musician. Go be a painter. Go be a stand-up comedian. Go be a fisher. I don't know what you want to do. But take the time, risk failure, and let me know how it goes. Stick around. Mark Levin's coming up next. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.